Hello, and I'm back again. And this time it is again time for Quincy Jones. A trifle antiquated, you say, but they rock this jazz stage. Jazz this rock stage. All right, here goes. Inspired by the Nails song, 80 lines about 44 women. Acknowledgements, Nirvana, and I have this line on within quotes. There was the handsome blonde guy, the latest in a short line of actual flings I had. He screwed me round, he screwed me hard. I hurt all over and was starry-eyed. Luckily, it passed, and there I was, turned over a new leaf, in love with work as work itself, and swore it would be my family all the way henceforth. Then there was the attractive male escort who cost me a packet of my engineer savings, but he got his dick inside, and boy, did we rock. He then gave me an orgasm so fine in my feminine definition of my sex, and that was a tale to treasure. But I say, next time, lover boy, do my boobs right, suck on my nipples, but treat them gentle. There won't be a next time, for I'm broke and working hard to make the kind of money I did long ago when the story of illicit love started. For I was as faithful as the heroine of Ramayana to the hero, to my husband, who was a tad unappreciative of my sexual side. And I was in the sleepy city of Ottawa with my child son, driving my husband's, and later my own leased car with my son in the back seat sometimes. After a nice stint working as a research associate of chemical engineering for Iogen Corporation, I first laid eyes. I first laid eyes on the self-possessed teller at the bank, a tall black man with a certain je ne sais quoi who handed me his business card. Acting on an impulse, I left him a phone message that evening, and he was full of charm. I said, how about a date at my place? When my son's in school, he dropped by all casual, and we had quite the chat. All of a sudden, he pleaded work as an excuse. And after a couple of weeks, I swallowed my pride and asked him over for a nightcap. I put my child son in bed, showered, and wore a Hudson's Bay dress, a black dress, which made me feel like a siren. And I threw my inhibitions aside and became bold like the said actress. But the slightly younger man had to have his way, and I drank my glass of wine all alone, with him being difficult. We kissed, and it tasted nice and kind of like a juicy apple without the sugar. His cologne gave me a heady feeling, and he was kind of strange, not like an attentive lover, careful of my needs. He said, "Be my guest," and I put his evident maleness inside, striding him, and after a while, he said, "This has to stop," and showed me his, quote, sperm bag, unquote, which sure, trust me, had a lot of sperm. Sperm which tasted as salty as the earth. I bid him goodbye, never heard from him, but I left him a rather spicy, literally spicy message saying it was your lucky night last night. There had to be an older man, a man past his prime, and but had the factors going for him, all the factors, that he was willing to play it my way and forced himself on me without actually doing so. So I was not responsible for my actions after. He, quote, sucked me down there, unquote, with the barest of boob sucks, and there was magic in me, for he was the magician. Finding the right nooks and crannies in my vulva, I found myself giving myself to abandoning my sexual restraint and gave way to sexual emotions I did not know I possessed. Ooh, what a feeling! What refresh! Bill, for he was the older man, humored me and my need to go on a date, but it was difficult about the fact that I, feeling the pangs of conscience, wanted to call it a day and listen to the dictates of an angry older man. He called me regularly for a few months, and on the day of my 34th birthday, he called me, and I decided to test the inner dynamics of my own lung organ. Mind you, it was for the second time, for I was wondering if it had stood the test of a Caesarean birth, my surgical incision having been above my triangle of love. Bad timing, for my husband called when Bill arrived in the afternoon, and I felt all miserable, breaking my mind for once. But Bill kissed me and kind of looked at me as if I was the next best thing to a quote, sex goddess, unquote. And after a few bad comments from young women in their 20s, it had me all loosened up. After taste of my own inner secrets, Bill did the magical insertion of his manhood inside of me. And there he was on the locomotive track with the steam of sweat making energy waves inside and outside of me. I was in a sexual high, feeling my own nipples harden. There he was, a total gentleman, asking me if he could come inside of me, but within his condom. A condom I had? Watch out, gentlemen, insisted on. And after he had released his sperm, I felt a moment of nirvana. Quote, I'm so happy because today I found my friends. They are in my head. I'm so ugly. That's okay because so are you. You see, I was so happy but had cheated on my husband. And that was my ugly side. And my husband was unsuspecting of my crime of passion. But after he drove my child son and me back to Toronto, after a glorious summer here in Toronto and more of it in Ottawa, He was a changed man who gave me an incredibly hard time. For he's your favorite male buddy, full of beer cheer, and I'll break up your illusions if I said the wrong thing about him. And he's your quote, your average guy, unquote, my husband. Something about his lovemaking. He's the Hindu guy to whom I gave my first kiss and to whom I lost my virginity. After 6 months of marital togetherness and felt the intensity of the loss after, even though he was kind and gentle, after taking my virginity away, and soon I threw myself, after some time, myself, heart and soul, into the act of love making through graduate chemical engineering school. And one day, after the pages of the Kama Sutra came alive in his arms, with myself making poetry within my soul in solitude, after I found my husband had impregnated me as God had intended him to, and 9 months after the harvest came, and was it ever a beautiful one? Beautiful one, for my baby boy came after a long wait with the smile of cherubic innocence on his face, under the magical maneuvering of my Caesarean birth surgeon. A new day dawned in our lives. And when it was the story of the baby and me for some time, with my husband playing a bit of a second fiddle to my baby, but he liked it so. Now the baby is all grown up, and I had my adventures since then. But for a long time, it was my growing son and me. My growing son and me. May you all have happy times with your children, telling tales of the men or just the man in your life. Thank you. Give a big hand of applause to Quincy Jones.